On the outskirts of Abuja, where the roads grew quieter and the city's restless noise faded into the whisper of tall grasses, stood a mansion no one dared to claim. The house rose like a silent giant, its gates rusted and its windows dark, staring at the world like empty eyes. The locals whispered that it belonged to Chief Kalistus, a man once feared and respected in equal measure. Chief Wike had been a powerful politician, a man whose name echoed in every corridor of influence. He built his fortune swiftly, but he built it on the backs of men who never received their due reward. Among them was Malam Musa, his old gateman. Musa had been loyal beyond measure, guarding the gates of the mansion faithfully for years. But as the weeks turned into months, and months into years, his wages remained unpaid. He lived in a small shack near the estate, often going to bed with little more than water in his belly. Consequently, Musa asked for his pay. Chief would say, "Aboki, relax. It's not as if you have a wife or children. What are you using money for? Do you know how many people want to take your place?" He grew weaker with each passing day, until one night, the cold finally claimed him. Alone, unnoticed, and forgotten, he took his last breath by the very gates he had guarded for decades. From that night forward, the mansion was never the same. In Garki markets, traders often lowered their voices when the subject came up. "Do you know they say the chief's house is not empty," one woman murmured to another as she arranged her yams. Our friend frowned. "But Chief Wike has not been seen for years." The woman leaned closer. "Yes. But at night, the gate still opens and closes by itself. And sometimes, people hear coughing. Like an old man's cough." Our friend shivered. "May God protect us." The tale spread from lips to ears, until the mansion was no longer just a house, it was a warning. Emeka, a young journalist known for his fearless documentaries, heard the whispers. He had always chased the stories others avoided, for he believed the truth hid in places drenched in fear. When he first stood before the gates of the mansion, camera slung over his shoulder, he felt the weight of silence pressing on him. The sign on the gate had faded, but faint letters still read, "Chief K. Wike." He touched the rusted metal and muttered, "This is where the story begins." First night in the mansion. With 2 crew members, Emeka entered the house. The air inside was heavy with dust, the furniture draped in white sheets, and cobwebs hanging like curtains. The grand chandelier swayed gently, though there was no breeze. As they set up their cameras, one of the crew whispered, "Do you feel that? It's like someone is watching us." They laughed nervously, trying to shake off the feeling. But as the night deepened, strange things began to happen. The front door slammed shut without warning. A glass shattered in the dining room. And from the staircase came a sound that froze their blood, a low, rasping cough. On their second visit, Emeka discovered an old, leather-bound diary in a drawer near the gatehouse. Its cover was cracked with age, its pages yellowed. The handwriting inside was shaky but clear. It was Musa's diary. Another day. Chief said he will pay next week. But next week has become many years. The hunger bites, but I cannot leave. Who will guard the gate if not me? My body grows weaker. But still, I wait. Emeka closed the diary, his hands trembling. The weight of injustice pressed on him. Musa had been faithful, but faithfulness had cost him. A neighbor, an elderly woman named Mama Chinye, recalled the night Musa passed. "He was such a humble man," she said, eyes misting. "Every evening he would greet me when I passed. But I saw how thin he became. Sometimes, I gave him food. He always said, 'Thank you, Mama. Chief will soon pay.' But that payment never came." She shook her head. After he was gone, strange things started happening. Lights flickering. Voices at night. I knew it was his spirit. He could not rest. One evening, Emeka's cameraman refused to return to the house. "I won't go back there," he said. The last time, I felt someone breathing on my neck. But when I turned, no one was there. Another crew member admitted she had seen a shadow at the gate. It looked like a man standing tall. But when I blinked, it was gone. Emeka's resolve only grew. If Musa is trying to speak, then we must search. Digging through old newspapers, Emeka pieced together Chief Wike's life. He had risen quickly through politics, bagging contracts and wealth. But behind the show spelt unpaid workers, abandoned projects, and whispers of exploitation. One headline read, Chief Kalistus Wike abandons housing project. Another, staff protest non-payment of wages. It was a pattern. Musa was not the only one left unpaid, but he was the one who never stopped. Emeka and his reduced crew returned once more. The house seemed to breathe with them, every creak echoing louder than before. As they set their equipment, a faint whisper floated through the air. At first, they thought it was the wind. But then the whisper formed words. Pay me. The crew froze. You hear AHM? One of them asked, voice shaking. Yes, Emeka replied quietly, heart pounding. And we recorded. Late into the night, Emeka dozed in a chair inside the mansion. He woke to find himself standing, though he had no memory of rising. The house was bathed in a pale, unnatural light. At the gate stood a figure. Thin, bent, frail. It was Musa. His lips moved, though no sound came. He pointed toward the mansion, then toward Emeka's chest. And in that instant, Emeka understood, this was not merely a haunting. It was a plea. Musa's spirit did not crave vengeance. It craved justice. Word spread that Emeka was investigating the mansion. In the beer parlors and pepper soup joints of Abuja, people began to remember. I once supplied sharp sand and gravel to his staff, one man told Emeka. Chief Wike owed me 7 months' pay. I gave up. Another, a mason, said, he promised contracts, but he never fulfilled them. I swore I'd never work for him again. Everywhere Emeka went, he found more voices, more proof. Chief Wike had left a trail of unpaid debts that clung to his name like shadows. But Musa's case was different. Musa had given his very life. One night, as Emeka drove home along a quiet road, his headlights flickered. The radio turned on by itself. Static filled the speakers, then a voice, faint but unmistakable. Do not stop. Emeka gripped the steering wheel tightly. He slowed as he approached a bend, and saw a truck barreling down the wrong lane, its headlights blinding. If he had not slowed, the crash would have been fatal. Shaken, Emeka whispered, "Thank you, Musa." It was clear now, the spirit was not seeking to harm him. It wanted him to carry the truth. The following week, Emeka went to the Ministry of Works. After hours of searching, he uncovered a dusty folder marked Kalistus Wike Estates Projects. Inside were contracts, invoices, and salary sheets. Again and again, Musa's name appeared with the same word beside it, pending. Emeka's throat tightened. The man had been loyal for years, yet his wages had never been released. This was not rumor. This was evidence. That night, as Emeka typed his notes in his office, the lights flickered. Papers rustled though the windows were shut. On his laptop screen, words appeared on their own. "Pay me." Emeka whispered, "I will. I promise." The light steadied. The screen cleared. Silence. Emeka sought out a retired government auditor who had once worked with Chief Wike. They met in a quiet restaurant. "Why do you pursue this story?" the man asked. "Because a man went down waiting for justice," Emeka replied. The auditor sighed. "You are brave, but be warned. Chief Wike's allies still hold power. They don't want this history exposed." He slid an envelope across the table. Inside were testimonies from workers, all unpaid. Take it, the auditor whispered. But be careful. Some debts are still dangerous. Emeka returned to the mansion with the documents and Musa's diary. In the grand hall, the chandeliers flickered to life on their own. The air grew thick. Emeka raised the diary. Malam Musa, I have seen the records. I know your wages were never given. But we will tell your story to the world. The documentary had shaken Abuja. People spoke about it in taxis, offices, and even in the corridors of power. But not everyone approved. In the National Assembly, murmurs rose. Who gave this small boy the morale to drag our very own Chief Wike's name through the mire? Senator Igwe Buke barked. Another muttered, today it is Wike. Tomorrow, it may be one of us. Better silence him before he stirs more ghost. A quiet but firm decision was made. Emeka was to be cautioned. A plain envelope arrived at Emeka's office with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with neatly typed words. Stop your tales by moonlight, or one more thing will be haunted. His crew urged him to quit. Emeka, they are serious, one said. You don't know the kind of powers you're up against. But Emeka shook his head. If they are afraid of truth, then the truth is stronger than them. That night, Emeka dreamed of the mansion again. He stood inside the gatehouse where Musa had once slept. Musa appeared, no longer thin, but solid, his eyes deep with sorrow. He spoke this time, his voice soft but clear. Your call is not against me. It is against the chains of greed. Tell them the truth. Tell them my story. Let them know. When Emeka awoke, his hands trembled. But his heart was stronger than ever. As the documentary gained more views, Emeka noticed men in dark cars with tinted glass, trailing him through the streets of Abuja. One evening, outside his office, two men approached. Emeka Imikus, my man, one said smoothly. You have done well. But it is time to end this story. Every man JS a price tag, I will advise you name your price. Emeka's jaw tightened. I'm not a crayfish seller. And my story is no crayfish. I don't do buying and selling. The man's smile vanished. Then you are looking for something you didn't keep. They left, but the message didn't. Instead of silencing the story, the threat only fanned its fire. Viewers across Nigeria and beyond began to demand action. On social media, the hashtag Justice for Musa trended for weeks. University students marched with placards, Pay the Forgotten Workers. Civil groups wrote petitions, urging the government to investigate unpaid debts. Musa's story had grown larger than the mansion. It had become a mirror of the nation's soul. Chief Wike's son felt the weight more than anyone. At night, he too began to dream of Musa. He saw the gateman at the gates, silently pointing toward the house, silently reminding him of his father's deeds. One night, unable to sleep, he called Emeka. I cannot carry this shame anymore, he confessed. What more can I do? Emeka replied, it is not about money alone. It is about remembrance. Build something in his name. Let people know his loyalty was not rewarded. Together, they planned a small memorial garden outside the mansion. Where weeds once grew, flowers now bloomed. A bronze plaque was placed by the gate, inscribed, in memory of Malam Musa, loyal gatesman, who served faithfully but was denied his due. May his story remind us that justice delayed is never forgotten. On the day of its unveiling, locals gathered. Some wept openly. And when the wind blew softly through the flowers, a gentle calm settled over. That evening, Emeka lingered near the gate. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the road. Then, one last time, he saw Musa. The old gateman stood tall, dressed in clean white robes. His eyes were no longer weary, but peaceful. He smiled faintly, raised a hand in blessing, and slowly walked into the light. The gates of the mansion creaked shut behind him, not in anger. The mansion no longer felt heavy. Birds returned to nest in the trees. Neighbors no longer crossed the street in fear. It became a place of quiet reflection, where visitors came not to tremble but to learn. Children asked their parents, "Who was Musa?" And the parents told the story of loyalty, greed, and justice. The haunted house was haunted no more. 14 months later, Emeka stood before a class of young journalists, sharing the story. "Why did you risk so much?" one student asked. Emeka smiled. "Because some stories do not belong to us. They belong to those who can no longer speak. If we remain silent, the world forgets them. But if we tell their stories, justice has a chance to live."